Welcome to another edition of Reverend Jeff's Monster Info. This episode focuses on the Wampus Cat of Eastern Tennessee, USA. The Wampus Cat is a creature of American folklore, variously described as some sort of fearsome variation of a cougar with 6 arms. The Wampus Cat is often compared to Awa, a Cherokee mythology, in that it was a woman who disguised herself in the skin of a cougar to spy on the men of the tribe as they sat around the campfire with their wolf brothers and told sacred stories of a hunting trip. When the woman was discovered, the tribe's medicine man punished her by transforming her into a half-woman, half-cat who supposedly still haunts the forest of eastern Tennessee today. In folklore, it can be seen as a number of fearsome critters. In some sections of rural eastern Tennessee, the legend of the Wampus Cat takes a more sinister tone. It is said that the Wampus Cat is the spirit of death of the earth, and when her cry is heard, it means someone is going to die and be buried within the next 3 days. One story of the Wampus Cat comes from Missouri, where they call it the Galliwampus. In Arkansas, it's the whistling wampus. In Appalachia, it's just plain old wampus, or Wampus Cat. A half-dog, half-cat creature that can run erect or on all fours. It's rumored to be seen just after dark or right before dawn, all throughout the Appalachians. But that's about all everybody agrees on. In non-Native American cultures, it's a howling, evil creature with yellow eyes that can supposedly pierce the hearts and souls of those unfortunate enough to cross its path, driving them to the edge of insanity. Cherokee folklore, which is filled with tales of evil spirits lurking in the deep, dark forests that surround their villages, offers a different view of the Wampus Cat. An evil demon called Awa, the spirit of madness, had been terrorizing the village of Etowah, or Chota, depending on the version you hear, is what is in today North Carolina. The village shamans and war chiefs called for a meeting. The wise shamans told the war chiefs that sending the braves to hunt and kill Awa was surely going to be the end of the tribe, for the Awa had the terrible power to drive men mad with just a glance. The war chiefs argued that Awa could no longer feast on the dreams of the Cherokee children, and that something must be done. Together they agreed that their strongest brave would go alone and bring great honor to his family and tribe by killing the mad demon. Standing Bear, or Great Fellow, depending on the story version, was the strongest, fastest, sneakiest, smartest, and most respected brave in the Cherokee Nation, and he was chosen to do battle with the demon. As he walked from his village, the shamans blessed him, and the war chiefs gave him many fine weapons with which to slay the beast. On the edge of town, his wife, Running Deer, bid him fine farewell. She would never see him the same way again. Weeks went by and there was no word from Standing Bear. Suddenly, late one night, the stricken brave came running back into camp, screaming and clawing at his eyes. One look and Running Deer knew her husband was no more. With time, he would be able to pick berries and work in the fields with the young girls and unmarried widows, but he would never again be as good as a husband as he had been before, and by Cherokee law, that meant he was dead. Standing Bear's name was never again mentioned, but Running Deer had loved her husband, and she wanted revenge. Running Deer went to the shamans, and they gave her a booger mask and a bobcat's face, and they told her that the spirit of the mountain cat could stand up against Awa, but she must be the one to surprise the demon. The war chiefs gave her a special black paste, which when rubbed on her body would hide her scent as well as her body. She kissed her former husband on the forehead, his blank eyes staring, and headed off to seek her revenge. Running Deer knew the woods as well as she knew the village, as she ate sweet berries to keep up her strength over the many days, but still she came across no sign of the Awa. Then, late one night, she heard a creature stalking down the stream. As she crept slowly towards the creek, she heard a twig snap behind her. She spun, and just as suddenly realized how quickly it could have been the end of her. Behind her, a wily fox darted across the pathway. If that had been Awa, I would be mad now, the widowed Cherokee woman thought to herself as she continued towards the creek. At the edge of the creek, she saw footprints which did not belong there, and her former husband's breastplate lay at the edge of the water. As she followed the prints upstream, she saw the demon. Its hulking form lurched hideously over the water, drinking from the pristine mountain spring. The Awa hadn't seen her. Running Deer crept ever closer, and just as she felt she could bring herself no closer, she sprang. The Awa spun and saw the cat spirit mask and began to tear itself as the spirit of the mountain cat turned its powerful black magic on itself. The Awa tumbled backwards into the pool, and Running Deer immediately turned on her heel and ran as fast as she could back to the village, never once looking back. When she arrived home, she sang a song to herself, a quiet song of grief for her husband, but also of joy for the demon's banishment. The shamans and war chief declared Running Deer the spirit talker and home protector. Some say that the spirit of Running Deer inhabits the Wampus Cat, as she continues her eternal mission of washing her tribe's lands to protect them and their peoples from the demons that hide in the dark and lost places of the woods. Yet another story tells us, they say that the Wampus Cat used to be a beautiful Indian woman. The men of her tribe were always going to hunting trips, but the women had to stay at home. The Indian women secretly followed her husband one day when he went hunting with the other men. She hid herself behind a rock, clutching the hide of a mountain cat all around her. She spied at the men and sat around their campfires, telling sacred stories and doing magic. According to the laws of the tribe, it was absolutely forbidden for women to hear sacred stories and see the tribe's magic. When the Indian woman was discovered, the medicine man punished her by binding her into the mountain cat skin she wore and then transforming her into a terrible monster, half woman, half mountain cat. Ever after, she was doomed to roam the hills, howling desolately because she desired to return to her normal body. A man was hunting one night with his dogs when they both whimpered and ran off the path. At that moment, the woods were overpowered with a horrible smell like that of a wet animal that had fallen into a bog after it messed with a skunk. Then something howled on the path behind him, and the man whirled around, dropping his rifle. His heart pounding with fear, the man found himself staring into the big, glowing yellow eyes of a Wampus Cat. The creature had huge fangs dripping with saliva. It looked kind of like a mountain lion, but it was walking upright like a man. And then it howled, and the man's skin nearly turned inside out with horror. With a scream of terror, the man leapt backwards and ran as fast as he could through the woods. The Wampus Cat on his heels, he fled to the home of a friend who lived nearby, burst through the front door, only a breath ahead of the creature. His friend slammed the door in the face of the Wampus Cat. Instantly, it started shuddering under the weight of the attacking monster. The man's friend grabbed his Bible and started reading from the Psalms. Upon hearing the holy words, the Wampus Cat howled in frustration and then slowly abandoned its attack and went back into the woods. The man spent the rest of the night at his friend's place, and when he went home at daybreak, he found his dogs huddled in the barn, shaken, but still alive. The man never hunted in the dark again. As we know, most monster stories have their roots in some form of truth, even if it's in the slightest of ways. A six-armed killer cougar sounds like a terrifying truth in Basin. Thanks for watching. I'm Reverend Jeff, and may the Squatch be with you.